It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce and Michael. I know a ghost story or two. Let's do this.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I'm your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
And our super producer,
Riley Bray.
Hey guys, just because our series on Roswell has concluded, it doesn't mean that wet hot alien summer is over just yet.
Yeah, closing it out.
Woo! Boy, I want to thank everybody who sent in kind words about the series. That was one of the most fun things I think we've ever done on this show. And we've heard your request to do some longer form research stuff in the future, and we're definitely going to do some of that stuff.
Yeah, Michael and I were talking just the other day. I think we've got some really fun stuff planned, so we're excited to share with what that might be here in the near future.
And if you want more Roswell, we're keeping the party going over on the other side. So right now you can hear our latest episode, Roswell Remains, where we discuss the leftovers of our research, including a few theories about what may have really gone down. And that episode also features a couple chats with Gabrielle Ruiz and Jen Kirkman. So you're going to want to check that out over on patreon.com/BigfootCollectorsClub. And just because Wet Hot Alien Summer is heading into its few final weeks, it's not too late to get your t-shirt. So head over to the wearecampfire.media website, click the shop button, and order our retro 80s tee by artist James Mulholland.
Yeah, thanks for sending those photos, too, of everybody wearing them. It's been really great to see.
Exactly. Take a pic wearing your shirt, and please tag us on Instagram at Bigfoot Collectors Club. Okay, everybody, let's get into today's show. We've got a guest for you. It's the first guest episode in over a month. Woo. I'm very, very excited about who we have for you today. He is a comedy writer who has worked on shows for Comedy Central, Cartoon Network, and Disney Plus, in addition to projects for Funny or Die, YouTube Originals, and Riff Tracks. He also created the Sci-Fi Comedy Bubble podcast that got a lot of acclaim and is the co-host of Jordan Jesse Go. Everyone, boys and girls, Club Scouts, please give a warm Club Scout salute to Mr. Jordan Morris.
Yeah! Hey, gang. Happy to be here.
Podcast royalty in the house today. In the
Thank you.
Club
Thank you for genuflecting. I can hear you guys both genuflecting on your end. So thank you for showing me the proper respect.
We have to pay respect to those who came before us and broke the podcast ceiling.
Thank you. We'll be discussing the right of kings later.
Do you wear a little crown when you record?
Oh, always. You got to wear a little crown.
Good.
A little crown, a big crown. I have many crowns, and just kind of depending on my mood.
A scepter with a microphone on top.
Right,
like
yes. That's what I'm recording out of right now. Basically anything that would be in Scrooge McDuck's vault. I like to have around me while I'm recording, just to remind myself that I basically invented the genre.
Were you?
And by genre, I mean medium.
Right. Because you've been doing this now for what, 10 years?
I think our podcast, Jordan Jesse Go, I think we're 13 plus. So we've been doing it a while. Yeah, definitely. When we started podcasting, it was mostly like Mac tips and Harry Potter fan fiction, and oddly enough, probably a lot of paranormal stuff too.
Wow.
How do you feel about people like us who hop on the bandwagon 7, 8, 9 years into it?
Oh, I fucking hate you. I resent you. And your young enthusiasm. Oh, you make me sick.
Right.
Yes. So are you, you mentioned DuckTales. Are you a DuckTales fan growing up?
Yeah, I definitely liked DuckTales growing up. Big Disney Afternoon fan in general. Yeah, DuckTales, Darkwing, Tailspin.
Yeah,
don't leave out Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Why would I? That would be silly to leave out Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. Good Nintendo game that went along with that too.
DuckTales. Oh my gosh, the best. The Capcom game for that and the Game Boy game. And then, of course, the DuckTales game was the best. But I bring it up because I feel like DuckTales was a good, like Indiana Jones, which it was obviously paying a big homage to in some respects. Like, I feel like DuckTales is kind of one of those, like, entry points into the paranormal world for a lot of kids. They're always off chasing after some weird relic or paranormal device.
Huh. Never thought of it like that. I could see that, though.
Well, certainly in Indiana Jones as
Yeah,
well.
no, that's great.
Yeah, they definitely like were able to put those hyper-specific characters into a lot of different genres. I think that's a cool part of DuckTales, is that there was a lot of like, yeah, they did a lot of like genre hopping in it in a way that I think was really cool.
I got to check out the new series. I hear it's pretty good.
Yeah, I've watched a couple. It's pretty funny. It's definitely like for kids. It's definitely one of those where you watch it and you're like, okay, like if I was 10, this would be my favorite thing in the world. It maybe doesn't like quite hit the I can watch this if I'm a single 38-year-old adult. But
I don't know, man. Some of the stuff I've been watching during quarantine is just purely to get me back into the mindset of a fifth grader.
Yeah, you know what? No judgment. Quarantine, all bets are off. Just watch old episodes of Speed Buggy if that's what soothes you.
Man.
Jabberjaw.
Watch some Jabberjaw. Watch some weird old Hanna-Barbera stuff. Funky Phantom, if that soothes you. No judgment.
Great Ape.
Yes.
Scooby-Doo, often imitated, never replicated.
Right, yes.
So we ask all of our guests on the show, Jordan, what is your personal paranormal history? Growing up, were you into ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs? Have you had any experiences you could share?
Well, yeah. So I was a dinosaur kid, first and foremost, and I still identify as a dinosaur kid. So I loved the Loch Ness Monster. I loved any TV special about the Loch Ness Monster. Any Loch Ness content. I was all over it. It's like it's why I know the weird trivia fact that a loch is what they call a lake in Scotland. So that was my big one. Did
you ever get to go to Scotland and see Loch Ness?
No, still a dream.
It's going to be a while now.
I know. Yeah, maybe that's the first thing I'm going to do when it gets safe to get on a plane. Head out there to Loch Ness and buy some uncomfortable hot T-shirts from a gift shop and shot glasses.
Did that ever sound plausible to you that what people could have been seeing in the loch might have been a dinosaur, for lack of a better word, that made it through the ages?
Boy, of all the paranormal conspiracy stuff, it probably makes the least sense.
Yeah.
I just wanted to believe it so bad. I just it gave me, like, I remember as a kid, like going to a museum and on the way home, like crying because like realizing that the dinosaurs were gone.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That really hit you.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, it's like, oh, this is all my books are about this and I'll never get to see it. So yeah, definitely like I wanted it to be real bad.
It would be like as if you were really into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and then your parents sat you down and told you that Michelangelo, Raphael, Donatello, and Leonardo were all dead.
Right.
And
or they've evolved. I mean, we have chickens today. That's the closest relic to dinosaurs and birds in general.
Yeah, I think when I was a kid,
not the same though.
They were kind of like the like evolution. They weren't pushing they involved it to birds as hard. I don't know if they didn't know that or if evolution was still like a controversial thing to talk to kids about. But
right.
I just basically the information that I walked away with was a meteor hit Earth and they all died, all of them immediately. So I think the Loch Ness Monster gave me hope. But right now I realize that there's like what could possibly have made that happen? It's totally So I do not think that there is a Loch Ness Monster currently, but sure was fun to look at pictures of that black and white,
Nessie.
Submarine photos of fins as a kid.
Did you have you happened to check out any of the latest stuff about the Loch Ness Monster that's come out in the past year or two?
No, I didn't know there was new Loch Ness info. I think I just kind of shut it out of my mind. Tell me.
Dare you turn your back on the last hope for dinosaurs?
I know. I'm sorry, Nessie.
first of all, there was like this spring, there was and I'll send you the link later. We'll put it in the show notes. There was a video, a new Loch Ness video that tourists took alongside the lake of showing a large object swimming just beneath the surface, and it kind of reignited everybody's interest.
Okay.
But they did a test in the past year or two. They did this thing using eDNA, which is environmental DNA, where they basically put a probe. I don't know how exactly what the instrument looks like, but they probe an area, in this case, the Loch Ness, and collect samples of just from the particulates in the water, and then they can take that and they can figure out what is shedding DNA in the lake.
Yeah, every biological organism, it takes a whole genomic picture of the entire loch with just a small sample in the size of your palm.
So of course they have lots of fish, and then there's like lamb or sheep DNA for all the sad sheep that fall into the loch and drown. That was a depressing side note.
Yeah, that's any body of water in Scotland. Probably some sheep have drowned here.
There's going to be a sheep or two in there for sure.
There's going to be a sheep or two. Just prepare for it.
Bring a tear to young Jordan Morris's eyes. And then, but one of the big hits that they got was like just a shit ton of eel DNA.
Okay.
And they think that the Loch Ness Monster might actually be either a large eel or a species of large eel, or an amalgamation of like a giant cluster of eels. So when people see something emerging from the loch that looks like a sea serpent, they're really just seeing big eels.
Yeah. Hey, big eel is pretty cool.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's a great consolation prize. I mean, obviously, nothing would top seeing a live dinosaur, but a big eel or a conglomeration of eels that move as one is pretty cool sounding too.
Like it's like an eel rat king living in the depths of just all tangled into one giant eel. Can you imagine if you were a boy and you were brought into like a secret laboratory and they were like, "We're going to show you, Jordan, the Loch Ness Monster," and it was just a tank.
Yeah.
With an eel in it.
I mean, who are these scientists that are doing this to me?
And how to get your name and number?
Yeah, why are they doing? Why are they taking individual kids into a room and disappointing them?
Well, we heard you were the biggest fan of Loch Ness, Jordan.
We read your 4th grade paper on Nessie. We were highly intrigued at your theories.
We hope this bums you out really bad. That's my Scottish, by the way.
That's pretty good. I think one of his parents was maybe Russian, but that's not bad. Better than ours.
He's a scientist, but he's complicated.
But we flirt around with the idea that Nessie is neither eel nor a Pleistocene relic. We think it might even perhaps be some sort of creature from time and space, maybe perhaps from a different dimension, something completely paranormal altogether.
Like maybe Loch Ness is like a portal and things can kind of come and go.
Absolutely.
That's the most fun theory.
There's a story about Aleister Crowley when he bought his mansion, his old like Gothic mansion in Inverness, and was doing all of these occult rituals back in the 1920s and 30s, that he was actually trying to summon the creature out of the loch and never banished and never finished the spell. And it was shortly after then that people started seeing this thing on the side of the road and then coming out of the water.
That rules. That's such a great comic booky explanation.
Totally. Yeah, it was supposed to be like some 6-month, one of the longest rituals he was ever supposed to partake in. But then some life matters happened, as they often do, and he had to leave Inverness, and he left the portal open.
Yeah, he had some marriages to destroy and some men's wills to break.
Right. And a friend needed him to help move, and he's the only guy in town with the pickup truck.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Everybody asked him to help them move. I know.
But the first report of the Loch Ness Monster comes from a story of Columba or Columbo, not the Peter Falk character, but there's this old story from medieval times of the saint going up into Scotland and then banishing the sea serpent that came out of the loch back into the waters. And so maybe Aleister Crowley unlocked the beast from within.
Yeah, all of this stuff. I think with a lot of paranormal stuff, my position is I don't really believe it, but I would be stoked if it was true. Like, I'm excited to be proved wrong. Like, I'm a pretty like committed agnostic with most issues.
It's a great place to be.
Yeah. Oh, it's really fun. You just get to sit here on the fence and just try and make sure nobody's mad at you. So yeah, but all of this stuff is like, oh, that would be really cool. I mean, obviously, I don't want an alien invasion or to get stomped by a Bigfoot, but it would be cool.
Where did you grow up, Jordan?
I grew up in Orange County, so maybe like an hour south of LA, kind of in the Disneyland area.
Wow. So yeah, you're LA local. I was trying to figure out, like, I guess I was asking, and now I'm really curious. Were there any urban legends in Orange County growing up?
Boy, no. So, no, Orange County is kind of close to LA, but it is very far away from it, like, culturally. So I think Orange County is a relatively, like, new thing. I think it was, farmland up until the 50s. So I think that, like, there being things there is kind of new. So yeah, I don't think it accumulated any urban legends. It definitely, there's definitely no Orange County, like, Black Dahlia murder. We never had a haunted house because all the houses were 10 years old. They tend to, like, tear stuff down once it gets too old. So yeah, there was definitely no spooky stuff in Orange County. I definitely, like, nothing even remotely Stephen King adjacent.
That's such a bummer.
I know.
It is kind of a bummer. I mean, yeah, I think I definitely wish I could have, found some dead bodies growing up. I think it would have.
They've got a lot of nice hibachi grills out there. Maybe there could be, like, some hibachi grill ghost going around or something.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
That's
maybe
a stretch, but
Yeah, like
maybe
like
there's a
PF Chang's.
Yeah, a cheesecake factory where the carbonation is a little bit bad in the soda dispenser.
Don't use the Mountain Dew fountain.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking for cryptids in Orange County. Nothing's popping up, but I think the closest thing to you probably would be, like, the Borrego Sandman, who was a type of Bigfoot figure that was out in the deserts, like,
just think
east
desert
of
Bigfoot.
Orange County.
Okay, Borrego Sandman. I love the I love the name. It sounds like a 90s pro wrestler.
It's like a cross between a 90s pro wrestler and, like, a Spider-Man knockoff.
Right.
Spider-Man villain. So did you, any of these things, being an agnostic, is there anything in this realm beyond Loch Ness, like, as a grown man, that captures your imagination or scares you? Have you, you didn't have any haunted houses where you grew up, but have you ever been to a haunted house, or what's your take on that stuff?
Yeah, let's see. So I did a tour of the Queen Mary a couple years ago, where they, talk about all the kind of weird shit that happened at the Queen Mary, that's in Long Beach. And yeah, I definitely, like, things felt a little ghosty in there. But I think anything that's kind of old and dark is always feels a little bit ghosty. No, yeah. So I mean, I've never seen anything. I've certainly talked to people who have seen stuff, and they seem really, like, convinced. I guess, maybe the creepiest thing that's happened to me in kind of this zone is I've seen the sleep paralysis monster.
Oh, please, let's dig into this. We love sleep paralysis
I definitely
stuff.
don't think it's an actual monster. I think it's just the your dream brain making a familiar shape. I think they say when you get, sleep paralysis is that kind of, feeling that when you wake up for a second and you can't move, you're kind of still asleep, but your consciousness is kind of half there. And a lot of people who have this while it's happening see a kind of a Slender Man type shadow figure usually standing in a corner or kind of hovering over them or holding them down or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely terrifying, but every time it's happened, I've been scared, and then it goes away and I'm like, oh yeah, that was probably just my dream, creating a familiar shape and then going away, and I was probably half asleep and half awake. Like, I definitely explain it away in my brain as quick as I possibly can.
See, you sound like a smart, rational human being, whereas after that happens to me, I have to text Bryce at 3:00 in the morning. I've had that too. Have you ever had like auditory phenomenon when that happens? Like, do you ever hear stuff when you're in sleep paralysis?
No, I don't. That would be an additional layer of scariness. Yeah, I hope that never happens to me. But yeah,
you don't want your incubus talking to you. That's when it gets bad.
Love a silent incubus. I hope they don't start playing the music of Incubus. That would be annoying.
Yeah, I had this experience happen when I was in London where I was asleep and woke up. This is years and years and years ago. And I could see a shadow figure next to my bed, and I heard it muttering under its breath about not liking Americans being in its house.
Wow, that's a good one.
And that was really freaky. But that's one of the few, like, quote unquote shadow man entities I've seen in those. But I've had lots of sleep paralysis shit. It's my whole life. It's been no fun.
I will say the thing in this zone that brings me the most delight, and I would love to get your guys' take on it. Unless you've talked it to death already, then we can totally move on. But so, you know, as I mentioned, I grew up in Orange County in the 90s. So, like, obviously was listening to a lot of, like, you know, a lot of the kind of like poppy skate punk of the time. And it brings me no end of delight that, like, the leading UFO guy currently is a guy who used to be in Blink-182.
Yeah.
It's so fucking rad. It's so funny. I just like, I just want someone from Sum 41 to see Bigfoot, or the guy who dances in Mighty Mighty Boss Tones to be QAnon. I just like want that to continue to its logical end.
How strange is that, right? Yeah. Tom DeLonge, he's making absolute splashes in the form of this whole To the Stars Academy and UFO thing. As a matter of fact, you know, that huge bomb drop in the New York Times in December 2017 probably wouldn't have happened had it not been for Tom DeLonge's company, To the Stars Academy. So it's, you know, a lot of he's a controversial figure, but I guess you kind of got to give credit where credit is due. But what a strange way to be making such a splash. I mean, and of all people, but apparently he's just been absolutely fascinated with the subject of UFOs and aliens, and he was a voracious reader on the subject ever since he was a kid, and he got an opportunity, a once in a lifetime unique opportunity to like go to Skunk Works, which is like like one of the leading defense contractors who make top secret military defense weapons and airplanes, to speak at like an end of the year banquet. And he was like, "Hey, man," he went to the president of Skunk Works. I think his name is Ben Rich, and he was like, "Hey, after this, I'll do it. I'll speak at your banquet if you would just give me 5 minutes alone with of your time. I'd love to talk to you about something." And that's how it kicked it all off. And that 5 minutes sort of opened the gateway into what would later become, a few years later, To the Stars Academy, which houses some of the greatest minds in sort of this type of research. I mean, you've got guys like Hal Puthoff, Jim Semivan, who was a defense secretary. I mean, the people he's working for are fucking insane, or that work for him, I guess, is how you would say it. But it's so weird. Yeah.
So he's kind of just bankrolling this thing like with royalties from the American Pie soundtrack. Is that
exactly?
Like, he's just a rich guy who can fund this stuff?
Totally. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Like, it's sort of like in our world where if you have a script that needs funding and you have a rich benefactor or a producer who can make it happen, I think part of the attraction, I think a lot of what the attraction of like Tom DeLonge in this world by people who are seriously trying to figure out what UFOs are, is they see somebody who got a lot of money, might bring in a younger generation and a passion for the subject, and it might actually help them get their work done, because it's hard to get grants and things to study UFOs because people think you're crazy.
Well, that was his idea, right? He's like, he basically told these bigwigs, and even in the military as well, he's like, look, the narrative for UFO and government involvement is complete distrust. Let me help you. Help me help you change the narrative of this UFO topic. Let me get my generation involved. Let's sort of open up the books a little bit, help it to be a little bit more transparent, and we can all sort of figure this thing out together, whatever that means. But if I can read between the lines, it sounds like, he's leaning towards this idea that, aliens are bad and they've been messing with human civilization from the get-go, and that they might be planning something quite nefarious. So we'd better get on the topic pretty soon.
A crazy aside to all of this, too, on the Blink-182 note, is that Skunkworks, which Bryce mentioned earlier, is largely run by this guy, Jeff Baxter, and he's called Jeff Skunk Baxter, and he was in the Doobie Brothers and in Steely Dan.
Wow.
Yeah,
amazing.
But now he's on like a congressional advisory board on missile defense and is like this crazy high-level defense contractor. So I don't know, this post-musician career in paranormal technology is like a bizarre thing.
That's wild, man.
I remember during the kind of Hillary email scandal of 2016, like something that was in those emails that got leaked was that her office was communicating with Tom DeLonge. I just thought that was so funny and weird.
Right. Yeah, Tom DeLonge reached out to John Podesta, who has always been interested in the UFO topic, and the Clintons in general. John Rockefeller started a commission to sort of look into the phenomenon, and he, invited people to sort of a weekend foray to talk about it, and it included people like, Hillary Clinton and Bill and John Podesta, and it's pretty wild.
Well, it was Democratic Senator Harry Reid too, who's got the program funding together for the ATIP program in the Pentagon that Elizondo, DeLonge's partner, came out of. That was all part of that story. So it is. I don't know. It's a weird thing. This is when there's something that has a big stigma to it, where people don't want to look crazy. The way you get funding together for something like this is usually in very roundabout, strange ways.
I was also I also had a little Art Bell period. I definitely had a period in when I moved to LA. My first couple jobs were PA jobs, where you just kind of do the bitch work for the production office, and a lot of it was driving scripts around late at night, and kind of pre-podcast, so you kind of just had terrestrial radio to listen to. So I definitely drove around LA listening to Art Bell for a couple months.
God, he was one of a kind, man. He really made those late nights mysterious and interesting, and time would just fly. Yeah, we're all big fans of Art Bell.
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely like something that was amazing about him, and I think that I'm sure this is a very cold take, but something that was kind of amazing about him is that anybody who called in, he would just assume that they were telling the truth. He would believe them and interview them like they were telling the truth. But someone's like, oh, the original tribes of Israel live in the center of the earth, and he was just like, oh, interesting. How?
Tell me more.
Yes, how do we get into the center of he would. But I remember the one time he shut somebody down for being too out there was someone who called in and said that the IRS was about to forgive all credit card debt. And he's just like, no, that won't happen. And I'm like, that's so weird. This is where you're drawing the line. This is so, I mean, obviously, yes, that is crazy. And why would they do that? But as
he looks at the $300,000 in credit card debt that's been stacked up.
Right. Yes, exactly. And he's like, all right, I'm going to talk to somebody who made love to the Jersey Devil, he's.
Do you remember what era of Art Bell that was? Do you remember any of the big stories that were going on at that time?
Oh boy. I mean, tribes of Israel living in the center of the earth.
I haven't heard that one. That's wild.
Yeah, I don't think I have enough. I didn't retain enough for me to accurately explain it, but I loved hearing it.
That seems like a story that goes in one ear, floats around your head for about 30 minutes, and then drops out the other.
I know. I just I just remember the phrase stuck in my brain. Yeah, and it was the kind of early and mid 2000s. So
I think the first Art Bell story I ever heard was in the late 90s, and my uncle got me into it because my uncle used to work in construction, and he would do these like long cross-country drives out to sites and, 10, 12 hours drive all night, and he'd listen to Art Bell. And it was, Bryce, you might remember this one. Jordan, I don't know if it rings a bell. There was a guy who claimed that he had seen a black triangle in the forest of a ship, and that he found or shot and killed an alien that he kept in his freezer.
Oh my God.
And he was leaking photos of the ship and the alien to Art Bell, and Coast to Coast was putting it on their website. And this is I was like really thinking this might be real there as a teenager for a minute. And it was around that time when like they could just start to really doctor photos with Photoshop to make it look real, and people were kind of untrained to be able to spot that stuff. And it was just this really compelling. He basically borrowed a lot from the Rendlesham Forest stuff and others in Roswell.
Right.
It was like him and his dog had been hunting and found this craft, and then shot and killed an alien that he kept in his freezer. And the alien dummy that he used was really cool looking. Like it was like a gnarly looking Roswell alien.
It seems like the logical place you go to is he planning to eat it? And when does he taste test the alien live on Coast to Coast?
Yeah, that's
the next obvious natural progression.
A little bite.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just cut off the hand and prepare the hand. You still have the alien there, but
I just like to nibble on the toes every Friday night. Just take out one. He's got 20 toes on each foot, so I got a long ways to go. Yeah, I guess he just was gonna. There was also Bigfoot hoaxes of people saying they had a body on ice, and it's all just to drag out, and usually what they do is they make a DVD or they take it on tour to like sell people, and then people figure out
P.T. Barnum type thing.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a total hoaxer kind of thing.
That's wild. I didn't realize there was still like, county fair, I sewed a monkey to a fish type viewings of supposed cryptids.
They are doing that with Bigfoot all the time still. It's like every couple years someone claims they've shot and killed a body. Oftentimes it's like one of or a person from the same group that claimed it before. And then they'll often be like, well, this isn't the body, but there is a body just like this, but I had to hide that body. So this is a replica of exactly what the body looks like. So they have their like really fun ways to explain away when they're busted.
Yeah, that was always something I remembered about the Art Bell stuff, is that like there was an element of like, we're going to show you, but we can't do it now. We're going to release the photos, but not now, and it always had some weird reason why the thing that would change everybody's mind can't be public yet.
Yeah. My favorite Art Bells were always those guys that say they worked at like Area 51 and they'd call late at night and they'd be like, and they'd have to like jump off the line real quick and like, oh, I gotta go, but I just wanted to tell you some shit is going on down here at the base, that always had such a air of authenticity, or like all those, military personnel that would call in and say they're,
my boss is coming.
Shit.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta go.
That's fun. That's totally fun.
Well, there was that super scary one of that guy. I think we talked about it on our Art Bell tribute show with that guy who, Jordan, did you ever hear that guy who called in who like said the aliens were coming and then got cut off the line and then all the power in Art Bell's studio went off?
No, That's great.
Man. Well, you know what we'll do? We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, maybe we'll play you that clip so you can hear it, and then we'll play a little Bullshit or Believe It with our guest, Jordan Morris. All right, Jordan. So we found the clip for you. This is from an old Coast to Coast episode. This is and there's writing on there's text on the video that opens with, in 1997, syndicated talk show host Art Bell received a frantic call from a man claiming to have worked in Area 51. And then this is the call that he gets.
Line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee or are you now?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna they'll triangulate on this position really soon.
Well, you can't spend a lot of time on the phone, so give us something quick.
Okay. Okay. What we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra-dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas in this world that they could begin moving the population to now aren't.
But they're not doing anything.
They are not. They want the major population centers wiped out so that the few that are left will be more easily controllable.
So the transmission cuts out, and then Art Bell comes back up, and he says, I love that music.
Yeah.
But he basically comes up and says that once they lost the signal, the studio's entire power shut down.
Wow.
And they had to start back up on backup generators. Generators is like, I have no idea what just happened, folks. That's the weirdest thing. It's never happened in the entire time we've been doing the show.
Such a creepy call. That guy was talking
you
about 2020.
You love to hear it.
That guy knew about 2020, man.
It's just wild
seriously.
because I feel bad now as an adult listening to it because I'm like, oh, that guy probably needs help. But
Yeah.
it is so scary. And the fact that they lost power during it is very, very weird.
You know, coming off the heels of our Roswell special, something popped out when that guy was saying a precursor to the space program. We made contact with these beings, these interdimensional beings, as a precursor to the space program. It made me think about what we were talking about in our Roswell episode, that, you know, these beings crashed right before we got our space program off the ground, you know. Interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely don't. I don't believe that was real, but it is like such good. It is such good theater and such
radio,
good listening. Yeah, and I love that kind of like, you know, is it real? Is it not? I think that the like tension of that is so fun and entertaining. And
at 3 a.m. at night, that shit's real. You know?
Yeah, totally.
At 1:45
I know.
in the afternoon, not so real. You know,
Right. Yeah. I know, and like, you know, it's always over AM radio, so it's like a little grainy, and it's maybe even coming in and out, you know, naturally. So yeah,
I found myself like creeping towards the microphone, like, oh, more, you know. Oh my
right.
God.
Well, speaking of what's real and what's not, we have a game we like to play with all of our guests, Jordan, where we go down a list of phenomena. And I ask you if you believe it or if you find it to be bullshit. This is a game, of course, we call Bullshit
Or Believe It.
All right, rapid fire. You got two answers:
Okay.
Bullshit or believe it.
And I mean, this is. I mean, as I mentioned, I am happily agnostic on most issues. So this is a challenge for me doing a definitive yes or no. It's uncomfortable.
It's a mental exercise, and we can circle back to anyone that you'd like to.
Okay.
All right, here we go. On your mark, get set, ghosts,
Bullshit.
UFOs,
yeah, bullshit.
Bigfoot,
Bullshit.
little gray aliens,
Bullshit.
out-of-body experiences,
Bullshit.
demonic possession,
Bullshit.
the Bermuda Triangle,
Bullshit.
alien abductions,
Bullshit.
Loch Ness Monster,
No, sadly, bullshit. It pains me. It pains me. I don't like it.
Time travel.
Bullshit.
Mothman.
I have not heard of. I mean, that sounds like a deep cut Justice League character.
Pretty much is.
So yes, I believe that the Justice League had a character called Mothman in the 80s, and he fought Clock King. But no, as far as that's not something I believe in. No, it's also
Clock
bullshit.
King. That's a deep cut within a deep cut.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about 80s.
Well
DC.
done.
Yeah,
Reincarnation.
Bullshit.
ESP.
Bullshit.
Haunted houses.
Bullshit.
The Illuminati.
Yeah, I'll say believe it. Let's say believe it.
There's a face on Mars.
Bullshit.
Skunk ape.
Bullshit.
Sea serpents.
Bullshit.
Poltergeists.
Bullshit.
Chupacabra.
Bullshit.
Atlantis.
Bullshit.
Life on other planets.
Believe it.
Parallel dimensions.
Bullshit.
The apocalypse.
Bullshit.
Life after death.
Let's say believe. I'll say believe it.
Well done. You got all the way
Thank
through this.
you.
That wasn't
Thank
so bad.
you.
We've had far worse anxiety attacks while playing this
I
game.
know. Yeah, it's tough.
previous
It's
guests.
tough. It's definitely tough, and it's tough with kind of spiritual stuff. And there's something I'm like, well, Bermuda Triangle. It's like, well, I bet there's probably just an area where weather is bad and they couldn't explain. I don't know. So I'm like, there's probably some explanation for some of this stuff. But yeah.
I'm just glad I didn't have to sell Skunk Ape to Jordan. That would have been a
That's like a regional Bigfoot, right? That's like
yeah, that's exactly right. It's like Florida's southeastern.
It's the Florida Bigfoot. It's the Skunk Ape is the Florida man Bigfoot.
Right. So he goes to Waffle House with a machete at 2 a.m. and
He's lucky.
steals an
That's our
ATV
Skunk
and
Ape.
makes the local news. What's the Orange County one again? Can you remind me what the name?
The Borrego Sandman, which is out. I don't know if it's
Sandman.
specifically Orange County, but it's in the deserts,
Gotcha.
out east of there. I'm not sure which county that falls into.
Maybe like
but
maybe a Coachella Valley.
Yes.
cryptid.
There's definitely a Coachella Valley.
Bigfoot.
It's called the Yucca Man.
Yucca Man. I love this. This is
But that's
great.
that's one of the fascinating, I think, things about Bigfoot is so many people just think, Pacific Northwest, there's the one up there, but people are reporting this thing or this creature basically in all 50 states except for Hawaii, I think, and Alaska. But yeah, people report their own sort of cultural Bigfoot. It's really wild.
It blows my mind that there hasn't been an Alaska one. I visited there, and that seems like such prime Bigfoot country.
I may have that wrong. I know I think it's like 48 states all report Bigfoot sightings.
Wild.
And I think there's 2. I know Hawaii's one. I'm not sure what the other one is, but
I'm going to Google Alaskan Bigfoot because there's got to be Sasquatch.
you would
up
think,
there.
right? I know. If there's one in the Himalayas.
I just pulled up a headline that said Alaskan Bigfoot and mysterious force fields of the triangle, and I do not think we have time for whatever that is.
Yeah, that's your next 3-parter.
Right.
Do you guys have a favorite region? I mean, you mentioned Skunk Ape. It seems like there's some affection for the Skunk Ape, but do you guys have favorite regional Bigfoots?
That's a great
Bryce?
question. Yeah, no, I love the idea of a southeastern bipedal hominid, especially something like the skunk ape, just because it's the videos that are really great down there usually come from like the swamps, and there's a couple I'm thinking of in particular where this creature, this sort of hairy creature, is digging around in the swamps, and this guy just happens to catch it on his camera, and you're thinking, what fucking jackass in their right mind would be out in a hairy ape suit, where there's crocodiles and boa constrictors and pythons and just like, all types of deadly predators. And you're out there trying to, hoax a video. It just didn't make sense. And, people report it. I mean, it's one of the more commonly reported Bigfoot sightings, juxtaposed to the Pacific Northwest one. So something is happening down there, and people are experiencing and seeing something very strange.
My favorite is Momo, the Missouri monster, and I like him because
He's got a cute name.
Got a cute name and an even cuter look. Like, he's Bigfoot, but they describe him of having like a large like pumpkin head, where like the not a literal pumpkin, but just like where the shoulders and the head kind of meld into one. and he kind of looks like a character out of the Addams Family or like the Munsters. He's like got a good like late 60s like
it's like that monster in Bugs Bunny, that big red monster.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah, sure.
He looks like him in eyewitness drawing. So I'm a big Momo fan. I also grew up in Kansas City, Kansas, so it's sort of local for me. I think Missouri's having a pretty big rash of sightings, Bigfoot sightings right now, actually.
Interesting.
Well, now I'm stumping for the Sandman. He's my guy.
You gotta go get the Borrego
or gal. I don't know. I don't want to.
That's true.
That's my baggage. Assuming a Bigfoot is a man. That's my cultural baggage.
You'll get a lot of good prospector stories when you look that up. It's usually a lot of prospectors seeing the Borrego Sandman out in California's Badlands.
It's funny that there's still prospectors.
Yeah, I know. I think there are actually, but that's an
equally odd thing to learn about.
They're paranormal too. They don't really exist in this dimension. They're just
right.
Yeah, they come over from the 49er dimension.
Yeah, sure. There's a dimension where it's still the gold rush, and it's where Deadwood takes place.
Yeah. It's where Red Dead Redemption 2 is. Instead of the Rockies, they have the Grizzlies.
Right.
All that stuff. Any thoughts about any paranormal theories or anything before we move on, Jordan, that you wanted to float out there, or a question you had? Like, why do they always say this? I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, now that I have a couple of experts. I when we were talking about the Loch Ness Monster, I vaguely remember as a kid, when I was at the height of my obsession about it, learning about some other like regional dinosaurs. I mean, obviously Loch Ness is the most famous, but I kind of vaguely remember there being like a Brachiosaurus in Africa that people were kind of excited about. Wow. Do you guys remember the details of that?
We haven't done this on the show. This is one of the earliest ones I remember as a kid as well, like around the time I heard about the Loch Ness. That's what the movie Baby is based on.
Oh, Baby, the lost legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his name, now I might be getting this wrong, I'll Google as we talk. It's like, that's not Ogopogo. That's, let's see. Yeah, there's stories of people seeing, like, I think at the time they were calling it a brontosaurus, although I think that doesn't technically exist anymore as a dinosaur. It's like Pluto. They took it away from us.
I think
John Keel
famously.
Yeah, John Keel, who was a famed Fortean investigator, he went on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and with an interview, and as part of his talk, he was talking about how people are still claiming to see, dinosaurs and large pterodactyls, or thunderbirds, as he called them. So I was shocked to hear that. But, according to John Keel, people still see sort of dinosaur-like creatures sometimes on occasion, which is crazy to think.
Yeah, this I think is called the Mokele Mbembe. If I'm saying that correctly, but yeah, that's a story that I've heard before, and we got to do an episode of it here on the show.
Michael, what's that like petroglyph, that like carved in stone? I mean, it looks like a stegosaurus, right? And then there's really no way the indigenous people who inhabited that area and who carved those arts into the stone could know about dinosaurs. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. That rings a bell.
I actually learned about that phenomenon when I visited the Cabazon dinosaurs.
Oh, no way. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So the Cabazon dinosaurs has undergone some interesting changes.
Okay.
And so these are the kind of the big kind of roadside, dinosaurs. I think they're in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I think they stopped there. They stopped there on the Wizard. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, I love those dinosaurs. Yeah, the Cabazon dinosaurs.
Yeah, so they were like a tourist trap kind of thing to get people to pull over for a barbecue restaurant kind of back in the day. And then they got bought by a Young Earth group. So the Young Earth people who say that the world is only 2,000 years old,
right?
Bought this and turned it into a museum for this theory. and had all of this, and so they have the little like garden you can walk through with dinosaur statues, but they're also there with pigs and sheep because they all lived at the same time.
Right. This is the theory that the Earth, like you said, is only 2,000 to 7,000 years old, and that the proof of dinosaurs just means that we co-inhabited with man together.
Yeah, exactly. And it is so that was just a real hoot. I did a road trip out there specifically to see that, but I think recently it was bought again from the Young Earth people by a more sensible
Younger Earth people
history focused organization. Now it is kind of just a general dinosaur fact place, and they've removed all the the sheep and the pigs.
Aww.
But that was one of the exhibits that I remember looking at, is an exhibit of kind of indigenous paintings that included some dinosaur-like figures, and that to them was proof because these people could not have possibly seen a dinosaur or used their imaginations.
Totally. Well, it's like these strange.
It just assumes that there's never that an indigenous person could not have an imagination.
Yeah. Well, perhaps through psychedelics and through altered states of consciousness, they might be open to seeing or interpreting things from the past or from the future. It's like those crazy hieroglyphics in Egypt that clearly depict like a helicopter, a bomb, a tank. They're
clearly.
Yeah.
No, I'm clearly. I mean, you cannot not see it. So they're obviously depicting something.
Well, also, look, I mean, these cultures thousands of years ago were building cities. They were building giant temples. They were building pyramids. They were digging up the ground. I would not be surprised if they found some fucking dinosaur bones and were smart enough to put, some of those fossils
That's one theory,
together and go, oh, there were these things here that came before us.
Yeah.
Also, they've seen lizards and snakes,
Yeah.
Like you could just draw anyway.
Yeah, I found an article about this Stegosaurus or this Triceratops that seems to appear on a temple carving. I'll throw that in the show notes for people who want to check it out. Nothing obviously super conclusive there, but it is interesting nonetheless. It might be a hoax like a lot of this stuff. All right, Jordan, we're going to take a brief break. When we come back, it's time for this week's story of high strangeness. And I can't wait to hear what you think about this one, because it is wild.
Nice.
All right. Well, it's we're back to our original format this week with a story of high strangeness. And while it's still wet, hot alien summer, I wanted to find a UFO story that was a little left of center, a little bit weirder. We've just come off, 3 in-depth weeks talking about Roswell. So I thought maybe this story could kind of be the dessert. This is sort of like the Roswell after party where, the people who really care, we're going to hang out. We're going to tell some more weird stories.
UFO dessert.
Yeah, something like that. So over the course of the early 1970s, Pennsylvania saw not only a massive uptick in UFO sightings, but a flap of hairy humanoid encounters as well. In fact, between June of 1973 and February 1974, Fortean researcher Stan Gordon cataloged 600 UFO reports and 118 Bigfoot sightings in Pennsylvania alone.
Wow.
And a few cases where the two phenomena were spotted at the exact same time.
Oh, yeah. Those are my favorite.
Bryce, do you want to give us a little glimpse into the background of who Stan Gordon was or is?
Yeah, sure. Stan Gordon is just he's a researcher. He researched UFOs as well as Bigfoots, or what might be called big hairy monsters. And I always liked Stan Gordon because he wasn't afraid to sort of put the two together or tie the two at the scene of the crime. And I guess he might have been sort of maybe one of the first guys to postulate that perhaps Bigfoots and sightings of UFOs were somehow related. And I always loved that.
Jordan, have you ever heard this theory?
No, all new to me.
All right, well, get ready for this. So one particular case of Gordon's drew a straight line between flying saucers and Sasquatch and culminated in a midnight moonlit frenzy of high strangeness. This is the story of the Greensburg case. On October 25th, 1973, in the farmland community of Greensburg, Pennsylvania, 15 people, a collection of family members and neighbors, stood in the yard of the Pulaski farmhouse and witnessed a giant red glowing ball hovering over a nearby field. Stephen Pulaski, a 22-year-old farmer and former coal worker who at a young age was forced to retire from mining after a back-breaking injury, grabbed his rifle, hopped in his truck, bringing along 2 neighbor kids, a set of twin boys, to head out to the field and take a closer look and locate this source of light. I like that our recent stories involve a farmer or a ranch hand going to find UFOs with like teenage sidekicks.
You're off to a great start. Yeah,
it does seem like all of these things are just like perfect movie pitches.
Oh, completely. This is a movie pitch though that like by the end of it the executives will be just smiling and nodding their heads and then just you don't hear back from them ever again.
Like, okay, great. Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah. But
great to meet you.
From Roswell we had Mac Brazel with Dee Proctor and Sidney Jack Wright. Now we got Stephen Pulaski with the unnamed twin kids. And also I should note that Stan Gordon, he researched this case. Everyone in here, Stephen, this is a pseudonym, so we don't know his real name, but this is the name that he gave him. So when they arrived at the pasture, Stephen and the twins discovered a large dome-shaped object or force field had settled in the wide open grass, illuminated with brilliant white light. While standing from a 250-yard distance, Pulaski estimated that the dome was about 100 feet in diameter. While the trio gazed at the mysterious object, they heard what sounded like the wailing of a crying baby, followed by the smell of burning rubber. One of the twins pointed to the fence running along the field, about 75 feet from the group, and shouted, "Look!" Lumbering along the fence line were 2 tall, hairy humanoids with glowing green eyes. At 7 and 8 feet tall, respectively, the Bigfoot-like creatures towered over the 6-foot-tall fence. As they made their way closer to Pulaski and the boys, they whined at one another in high-pitched baby chatter. This is a thing. Good. This is a thing that comes up in a lot of these Bigfoot stories are people hearing what sounds like the crying of babies in the woods.
It's true. It's a common thread. It's crazy. Hey, Michael, do you think that like lightsabers, color can determine if that creature is going to be good or bad depending on their eyes shine?
Yes, of course.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, green eyes mean that they're of the living force.
Okay.
And blue is that they're sentinels of the force. And then of course if they have red eyes that they're Sith Bigfoot.
Right.
I always wondered about that.
And
you
purple is Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes. Yeah.
Basic science. Really.
And there's like only one of those. There's only one.
Yeah.
Pulaski raised his rifle and fired 2 warning shots over the creatures' heads. However, the monsters didn't take the hint. As they continued to press towards Pulaski and the children, the farmer shot again, this time making a direct hit on the larger of the 2 beings. The shaggy beast roared and waved his hands in the air towards its companion.
So this guy's just shooting them without them attacking?
Hey man, this is
he fired a warning shot.
Yeah, it's true. He told them what was up, and they didn't.
That's
stop.
true.
This is rural Pennsylvania in 1973. They're seeing a giant glowing dome and 2 big monsters walking towards them.
He was lucky to get that.
Humanity is so fucked if there's aliens, right? We're just going to start shooting at them as soon as we see them.
Yeah, what he couldn't see were the bouquet of flowers in the monster's hand.
Right, yes.
So this happens. He shoots the monster, and then suddenly the glowing white dome vanishes, just completely disappears into thin air. One of the boys bolted, runs home in terror. And where the dome had been, there was now a foot-tall glowing circle.
Huh.
As the two cryptids ran back into the woods, Pulaski and the remaining boy were suddenly overcome with this acute eye irritation. And Pulaski heads home, rubbing his eyes, and where he called the police. A Pennsylvania state trooper arrived on the scene around 9:45 p.m. Trekking back to the pasture with Pulaski, the men could still see the strange foot-high glowing circle in the pasture. The trooper said that all the individual plants along the ground were distinguishable by the naked eye, and the light was bright enough that you could read a newspaper in it. And the trooper clocked that all the farm animals in the area were avoiding the circle. He suggested that they head back to the barracks and call Stan Gordon and his UFO study group to come out and take a look. As they were heading back to the patrol car, the trooper and Pulaski heard something tracking them from the tree line. Fears escalating, the trooper jumped back into his vehicle just as Stephen saw something large and brown emerging from the woods. He screamed, "Something's coming for us!" Jumped in the car, and the two sped away. Now, I'm not sure when it comes to this circle that they're talking about, and sometimes it sounds like it's a solid circle, and sometimes it sounds like a ring of light. And I'm not quite sure which one it is, but it is weird that it stops a foot off the ground, and then just above it is more darkness.
Yeah, that's weird. It's a portal.
There's such a high fun factor here in the theory that all of this stuff is linked, like aliens, Bigfoot, Loch Ness.
Yes.
I mean, it's like an Avengers situation. It's like they're all coming together.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, take a listen because it gets even weirder. So, around 10:30 p.m., Stan Gordon got a call on his UFO hotline from the state trooper. Gordon had already... I know, this guy has a 1-800 number where you could call in. I
think
UFO
it's still
studies.
Operational today, too.
We should call him right now.
Yeah.
And he had already received a brief flood of calls earlier that evening describing UFO activity in the area. So he grabbed his investigative team, which was called Westmoreland County UFO Study Group, made up of David Smith, a physics teacher and radiation expert.
Amazing.
Dennis Smeltzer, sociology major, George Lutz Jr., former Air Force pilot, and Gordon's co-director, photographer David Baker.
In other words, that fucking A-team. Like, come on.
That's right.
the nerdiest of nerds. These men who are like, let's put together a task force and this is the original Pentagon UFO task force. This is who they should be hiring now. I love it. I love the physics teacher, high school. He's probably like a high school physics teacher.
Yeah.
And radiation expert.
Could you imagine their wives rolling their eyes as they go out into the middle of the night with their radiation meters and their cap guns? Oh my God.
It's like, this is what people did before there was Netflix. We need to go back to this.
It does seem that the world of this stuff is very like male. Are there notable women in the world of paranormal investigation?
There are more so now, but I'll tell you what. One of the problems with this whole phenomenon it is predominantly male, and it is predominantly white male. So there's not a lot of diversity in the ufology field. This is something people talk about. It's getting better. But certainly in 1973 in Pennsylvania, I'm pretty sure this is just, it's just dudes. This is kind of their boys' club. This is like my dad, when he was a zoology major, he used to go snake hunting with his buddies. And they would just go out in the woods and hunt snakes. It's like, this is what these guys are doing. I think in the early 70s, just men just needed to have local adventures.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there just seems like there's a social element to all this,
Yeah, these guys are definitely like drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon while doing all of this. You have to imagine.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, we scanned the forest around our farm for radiation. Maybe we should bowl. Let's grab a drink. Like,
absolutely.
The night's young.
Sounds like the best time ever. So the
it
team
has a book club element to it.
Yeah, absolutely. The team arrived at 1:45 in the morning. What took them so long, I do not know. And searched the area. By this point, the glowing circle had faded, but David Smith checked the area, like Jordan said, for radiation and found nothing present. While Lutz and Pulaski searched around the farmhouse and came up empty-handed. Gordon noted, however, that the animals were acting spooked and that a bull and Pulaski's dog were staring at a specific spot in the woods. The bull became frightened and the dog started kicking its back legs and barking at the tree line. And during this period, some of them on the team claimed to see the farmhouse itself light up and then suddenly dim after a few seconds, as if it had been surrounded by light. Pulaski, who had been looking pale and sweaty and growing more anxious all evening, started scratching at his face. And this is when things get really, really weird. So Pulaski starts breathing heavily, and they said he started pacing back and forth like a caged animal. Lutz and Pulaski's father, who was now present at this time, they tried calming him down, and Pulaski just starts wigging out. He throws his father and Lutz to the ground and starts running around this pasture, screaming and swinging his arms around.
No.
Now everybody's just trying to get this guy to calm down. But Pulaski is going into full berserker mode, snarling and growling like a werewolf.
What?
At the same time, Dennis Meltzer turns to Gordon and says,
Hey, I'm starting to feel a little lightheaded, guys.
Stephen Pulaski throws himself face first into a pile of manure. And then the entire team starts smelling this thick, disgusting waft of sulfur that just surrounds the area.
Oh, no.
George Lutz was like,
let's get the fuck out of here.
And Stephen's screaming at the men,
Get back! Get out of here! It's in the corner! Keep away from the corner!
Stephen then eventually starts calming down, and as he comes out of his fugue state, he started telling everyone that he saw a vision of a man in a black hat holding a scythe who told him that if mankind doesn't straighten itself out, the world was going to end.
What?
I love all the characters we're piling on here.
Yes.
Great.
Oh, yeah.
Just when you think the story's losing some steam, we have a Grim Reaper type figure.
A Grim Reaper combined with a Men in Black.
Right, yes.
He's like Men in Black from shoulders up and Grim Reaper from shoulders down.
Fucking metal.
Yeah, this is truly wild. So after this all happened, I'm pulling up an article that I read. After this all happened, Gordon had Pulaski speak with a psychologist or psychiatrist named Dr. Eric Schwartz, and I'm going to read to you from an article that Schwartz wrote about this not long after this all went down, called Berserk, a UFO Encounter.
Was it a dream? I heard a crying noise. I could see a man in black, in a black robe, carrying a scythe. Behind this man was fire, and in the front of him was a force, and this force were the creatures. They were calling, Stephen! Stephen! One was laughing. It was a tantalizing laugh and made me mad. My hands were clenched tight. Behind us was a big light. In this light, something was telling me to go forward. Go forward. Come on. It was edging me. I could see myself as crazy, a man so powerful that I wasn't scared of anything. The creatures kept calling me, and the light kept saying, Go, my son. You can't be hurt.
Go to the light, Stephen. Go to the light.
I think of a mother sheep calling her little lambs. As I walked to the edge of the woods, the creatures kept wailing. I looked at them, and all I could think was of death and the faceless form in the black robe who was commanding these things to kill me. It was hate, a hatred for everything. I knew that these things came from this force, and if they got to the light, they would be destroyed. The tension was so terrific that I passed out. Then I heard, "He is here. He is here." But who is he? Somebody was putting a puzzle in my head. My hands and ankles were hurting. Somebody was telling me that these people are going to destroy themselves. I kept seeing the date, 1976. 1976. It popped out of my mouth. If these people don't straighten out, the whole world will burn.
DuckTales. Woo!
Man,
Every day that I've been making. Yeah,
this is new. You know, this definitely feels like this is unlike any alien encounter story I've heard.
Yeah,
well, so Gordon and his crew actually believe that Pulaski may have suffered from a type of contactee syndrome that often occurs when people make contact with quote-unquote higher intelligences or extraterrestrial phenomenon, which often involve visions of apocalyptic images. Bryce, this is something that's come up on the show before.
Most definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like this guy received some sort of download or he was able to have access to some visionary experience that freaked him the fuck right out.
And although the world did not end in 1976, at least not in the biblical sense, the GREENSBURG case remains one of the strangest tales of high strangeness I've ever come across while researching this podcast.
Yeah.
Hitting several key phenomena, UFOs, Bigfoot, and the Men in Black, leaving us not only to ponder, are we alone, but just how many of them are there? And that's the story of the GREENSBURG case. My sources came from The Sasquatch Saucers by Doug Monk and Joe Phillips from Paradox Press's classic graphic novel, The Big Book of the Unexplained. The 25th anniversary of Truly Scary Pennsylvania UFO Encounter from Stan Gordon. And Berserk, a UFO creature encounter by Eric Schwartz, MD.
That was a good one.
Pretty weird stuff, huh? What do you think about that, Jordan? What the hell is that?
I don't know. I mean, I think my go-to is always maybe this is a mentally ill person who needs some help.
Sure.
That they have not gotten.
That's why Gordon had him speak with Eric Schwartz. And Eric Schwartz kind of was like, he figured out that Stephen didn't have a history of mental illness.
Yeah.
He did have a somewhat stressful childhood and stressful life. I mean, at like 19, he broke his back in the coal mines, was living on disability, and then doing this farm work. So he's like, well, but then you think about, is that any more or less stressful than any person who's, just working hard? I don't know.
Well, and he wasn't the only one to experience it. There were multiple witnesses, one including a state trooper who's a trained observer. I mean, something must have happened in that field in Pennsylvania.
One of the things that the psychiatrist put forth was this idea of that maybe there's some sort of connection between whatever is the UFO phenomenon and then reports of people turning into werewolves, that maybe there's some psychological factor where these encounters or stressors that cause people to act and behave like animals. Like he was really trying to figure out why this guy went into this like feral mode,
right?
And that he's like, okay, we have UFOs sort of representing like otherworldly power or godlike power. We have these creatures appear and him behave like an animal that sort of represents the animus, and then we have the person in black representing death. Like he's really trying to figure out symbolically what this all means.
Psychologist is having his Jung moment. He's like, oh, this is fuck. I've been waiting for a fucking case like this for 20 years.
Yeah, he was really trying to figure out if this is just like repressed anger towards Pulaski's father, but it's just like,
right.
It's amazing. I just love this image, and I'm sure it was not fun for him, but of this farmer just like going bananas and then throwing himself in cow shit in front of all these people. And one of them said, it might have been Stan Gordon, was like, if this guy was putting on a performance. His commitment was next level.
Yeah, I don't think it's that, man. I really don't. Look, if this was like a one-off case where people saw something strange with some quote unquote big hairy monsters, and I'd be like, yeah, maybe somebody's having some psychological difficulties. But people report this shit more than people think. So it's not strange for me to think that, what these people described, is literally what they experienced, some sort of strange force field light along with some, a couple of hairy creatures. And I don't know, perhaps this guy was put into some sort of a trance or something. I mean, who fucking knows? But I'm not putting it past that this is what these guys actually experienced that night. That's crazy shit, man.
Jordan Morris, bullshit or believe it?
I'm definitely bullshit on this one. Anything that I think is happening in someone's head or something, I may be more likely to write off as untreated mental illness. But boy, I mean, as far as like capturing the imagination goes, this definitely has some of the fun of the like Hellboy comics, which I really love, where it's just like everything you've ever heard is, monitored by one organization, and they do Loch Ness, they do Bigfoot, they do aliens. There's definitely
only
as
this
far
time
as
it's Stan Gordon and his physics teacher and his other buddies.
it's some guys at a local university who measure radiation. But there's definitely like just the story of it has some like very fun some good world building, I'll say.
Yeah, and look, 15 witnesses saw the red ball. 3 people claim to see these creatures. The state trooper saw this weird glowing grass. Who knows? Whatever went on inside the dude's head, I think is left best for professionals. But there are some weird sightings involved in this story, which is why it sort of still falls into the mysterious category for me.
Well, and it sounds like it might have been a flap as well. I mean, 600 UFO sightings along with 118 hairy beast sightings. Those are probably the only ones that reported. So it sounds like something was happening on a gigantic scale, right in that area.
Well, I guess we'll never know. Jordan Morris, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Where can people find your work?
I am on Twitter at Jordan_Morris. You can check out the podcast Jordan Jesse Go. It's a goof around chat show, much like this one, but without the format or focus.
I barely.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah.
So that's wherever you get your podcasts. And also, I was a writer on a TV show that might be of interest to your audience. It's called Earth to Ned. It's coming soon on Disney Plus. Cool. It is about an alien created by the Jim Henson Company who hosts a talk show. It's
this sounds awesome.
Yeah, no, it was a ton of fun to work on, and lots of cool celebrity guests, lots of weird Jim Henson style humor. It's coming on September 4th on Disney Plus.
Dude, definitely going to check that out, and I know our listeners will love that. Bryce Riley, anything to mention before we say goodnight?
I just want to thank everybody who sent in submissions for our music video. I was just blown away by the creativity and the weirdness of our audience. And I'm really excited for what it's going to become. So thank you guys.
Cannot wait. I saw some of that stuff and it was amazing. You can follow us at Bigfoot Collectors Club on Instagram, Bigfoot Pod on Twitter. Please go to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review, leave us a nice message. If you do, we'll read it here on the air, like Wharf77BB, who said, "Great mix. Just enough conspiracy and strangeness with a good level of skepticism about said stories. They often say if they don't agree with a point or call out something for just being strange, but normal coincidence. I love the show." Thank you so much, Wharf. We love you.
Wharf, yeah.
We can't wait. One more episode to come in Wet Hot Alien Summer. All right, everybody. Until next time, good night.
And go get regressed.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray. Our theme song is Come Alone by Suneaters, courtesy of Lotuspool Records. If you like the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps get the podcast to more listeners. To support the show, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club and unlock multiple reward episodes every month.